Today, the politics of power in the Empire State.
Good afternoon, Democrats.
New York Democrats gather in Syracuse for the first time in 4 decades, and at the center of it all, Kathy Hochul.
Does this feel like a unified gathering for you?
Yes, it does. We have a lot of support, a lot of energy.
A sitting governor running for re-election, faced with pressure from the right.
Hers is a record of failure, of misery.
And pushback from the left.
The time has come to tax the richest New Yorkers.
All of it unfolding as Governor Hochul makes one of the most consequential decisions of her campaign.
Tell us why you feel that Adrienne Adams is the right choice for this moment.
She understands all the levers of government.
Today, in her first sit-down interview since naming former New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams as her running mate, Governor Hochul joins me for a wide-ranging conversation.
This is my 16th election.
And the questions are big.
Do you feel that the federal government is acting in good faith when it comes to immigration?
Can she unite her party, hold the center, and convince voters she is the right leader for this moment?
And as a standard bearer, I'm proud to show everybody what we stand for.
A special edition of Power and Politics starts now.
I'm Tara Rosenblum, and today we're joining you from upstate New York, where the Democrats just wrapped up their 2026 state nominating convention. It's also here in Syracuse, where Governor Hochul joined me for an exclusive interview during a pivotal moment for her campaign, her first sit-down since forming the first female-led major party ticket in New York history. So we did a deep dive on that decision and discussed all the big political fights defining this election year. Your arrival here to Syracuse comes on the heels of 2 pretty significant political headlines, so I want to dive right in and start with your pick for a running mate. Tell us why you feel that Adrienne Adams is the right choice for this moment for New York. And, you know, I heard you talking earlier. You have so much in common, so I'm curious, what do you feel that she brings to the ticket that you don't already have?
She has such an in-depth knowledge of New York City. It is extraordinary. Being the Speaker of the City Council means you have to pull together 51 people with very diverse opinions from every corner of the city. And you work on challenges like building more housing and childcare and social services and making sure that emergency services are provided for. So she understands all the levers of government, but particularly one for the biggest city in our state, the most complicated. So I can rely on her, and I feel like I know the city very well, but there's always a deeper level that I believe she brings, having lived in Queens, been raised there, and knows the boroughs so well. So that is a real value add to me.
I was already talking to some of your fellow Democrats in the hallways. They were particularly surprised by the backlash that this announcement faced in Brooklyn, with the Democratic Party rescinding their endorsement. What's your take on that?
It's one person. I think there's overwhelming support. You know, we just received the endorsement from the mayor. Tish James endorses. We rolled out, I think, everybody from Westchester. We're rolling about, you know, all of our union endorsements. So I think you look at, you know, one person's grief and beef. It doesn't matter. You know, I've got a lot of support out of Brooklyn, and I'm real excited about seeing everybody tomorrow.
And of course, the other big headline, Mayor Mamdani, you endorsed him back when he was candidate Mamdani last year, and now this day he returned the favor. So besides the obvious, on the drive up here, I was reading that Siena poll that found he's the most popular elected official now in New York State. So besides the obvious, what do you hope to gain from that alliance?
No, I think it just shows that we're willing to work together, roll up our sleeves. And that's what New Yorkers want. I think that era of, you know, the mayor and the governor fighting just because we got these titan epic-sized egos, and we get who's the top dog, who gets to be first with a press release, who did this with the pandemic, or who did this on. I are so over that. And when you get an individual like myself who made it my mission to work with whomever the voters want, I worked with Bill de Blasio for a few months. I worked with Adrienne Adams. I look forward to continuing to work with Zohran Mamdani and coming through with a major accomplishment for New Yorkers, because we announced together that we are committed to universal child care. It's a big deal, and I think, you know, we're doing very well today with all that support, but I still run like an underdog. I fight hard in my elections. I take them very seriously.
And you mentioned universal child care. In fact, in his release that he sent out to the media today, Mayor Mamdani cited that as one of the primary reasons for his endorsement. He called it the most sweeping safety net, I believe, in New York history. But beyond that, in your fifth State of the State address that you just delivered, you outlined many more proposals to tackle affordability, which is, the #1 issue, not only in the city, but in the suburbs, across our News 12 viewership. Of all the proposals that you outlined, which one would you say that most New Yorkers are going to feel the most day to day and the quickest?
No, I think it is, the child care is going to make a difference right away, because we're going to make sure that within just 2 years that every family has access to 4-year-old 4K. And we don't right now. We're building up the 3K program. So that is not immediate tomorrow, but we're also, this year people are going to see the results of what we did last year, which is literally anyone with a child under the age of 4 is going to get a $1,000 tax credit back. $1,000 to help cover the next month's bills and the diapers and the formula and the fact that all the clothes the kids keep outgrowing every few months. So I think that's immediate money return there. But also immediate is the fact that we're now expanding our Reconnect SUNY program, which means we are covering the full cost of community college, 2 years, all the fees, all the books for adults going into careers such as healthcare and education and clean energy jobs, and we're adding logistics and advanced manufacturing. So areas where we have shortages of workers. So I'm very attuned to what the pain points are for New Yorkers, the tariffs are driving up the cost of their groceries. That's intentionally inflicted by the Trump administration. I can't change that dynamic, but I can do everything I can to put more money back in their pockets.
So a lot of those issues on affordability, you and Mayor Mamdani are in lockstep on. With the budget gap, a little bit of a different story, right? He is warning that the state is facing a multi-billion-dollar fiscal crisis that can only be solved in 2 ways, either the state delivering more aid or new taxes. You have said that's a non-starter. Has that changed, or is there any scenario out there, any at all, where you can envision a scenario raising taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers?
It's not going to be necessary, because I don't believe in raising taxes for the sake of raising taxes. We have been working closely with the administration. Again, it's a new administration. They're still getting under the hood to find out, what expenses have to be paid this year versus next year. They're trying to figure out, do they have all the most accurate calculation of revenues? We found out at the state level, because Wall Street had done so well, stock market bonuses that are taxed by the state came in. We had $17 billion more than we anticipated. The city's going to benefit similar, not $17 billion, but they're going to get sort of a windfall from that. So take that, calculate that. Are there areas we can take off some of the burden that's on them now from the state? So we're in really positive conversations about how to get them through this for this year and next, and get them on stronger footing going forward.
I want to go back to something you said earlier about having the mentality of an underdog. So let's talk about your challengers. You are facing a primary challenge this year, and certainly at this point it seems that Antonio Delgado does not have the funding or the polling support to become a top-tier challenger, but your own lieutenant governor is running against you, so that's unusual. So I have to ask you, how seriously are you taking that threat, if at all?
I can't help myself. I'm very competitive. This is my 16th election, and I don't want to just win. I want to win and make a statement. And so I plan to run hard and take every day seriously and go after every single vote and let them know that they have someone in this job who's honored to be in this job. I don't take it for granted. It's never been about my ambition or my ego. It is about getting up every day and taking care of people's families. That's what motivates me. And that's why I love this job. I'm going to keep fighting for this job and making sure more New Yorkers know that's exactly why I would be honored to have their vote.
Okay, so let's look ahead then to the general election battle. We know that the spotlight here will soon shift to the Republicans, who are holding their nominating conference out on Long Island. Not surprising, given Bruce Blakeman likely at the top of their ticket. He is painting himself as a law and order alternative to your leadership. So why are you the right choice for not only voters down in the city, but in the suburbs, Long Island, Westchester, and here upstate, we're meeting in Syracuse, who remain concerned? I know the crime stats are getting so much better recently, but people remain concerned about public safety, and also many people in the suburbs about the direction of politics down in New York City.
The crime statistics are hitting record lows, whether it's the subways, whether it's where I was in Buffalo or in Albany and Syracuse and in Westchester, talking about our investments. Crime statistics are not getting better just because we wanted them to. They're getting better because they do have a law and order governor now who believes that we need to do everything we can to keep our communities safe. And that means giving the resources, $3 billion. And it'd be interesting to hear the Republicans try to explain how they support a president who literally defunded us, who took away almost $200 million just a short time ago from NYPD and fire departments for money to protect us against terrorists. They took that away. I had to call the president and say, Mr. President, if you take this, you're defunding police. Is that what you want out there? So I think it's almost interesting now that it has shifted, that the Democrats are the ones who are getting the results, making the investments. I was out in Long Island talking to police departments about the money we gave for license plate readers and for new computers in their cars and drone technology, which is doing incredible work to help solve crimes and prevent crime. So I come out of a family of prosecutors and law enforcement, so you can't question my credentials.
Still ahead, Governor Hochul on congestion pricing, immigration enforcement, and the fight for the House. Welcome back to the special edition of Power and Politics. I'm Tara Rosenblum. Now the official standard bearer for the New York Democrats. We continue now our extended one-on-one conversation with Governor Hochul as she looks ahead to her policy priorities and a high-stakes election year. One of the fights, speaking of which I know that you're taking on now, is ICE. And, we're seeing these massive protests from our city streets in New York out to the Grammy stage. You yourself have called for Secretary Noem to step down or to be terminated. That hasn't happened, but of course, since you made that call, we've seen now the addition, they're calling for body cameras for the agents. Hundreds of them just announced leaving Minnesota. Does that go far enough for you? And I guess just overall, do you feel that the federal government is acting in good faith when it comes to immigration enforcement?
No, not at all. That's the whole point here. This is a brazen abuse of power. We all listened to Donald Trump when he said he was going to close the borders. That's fine. I don't believe in open borders. I want a common sense immigration policy. I don't support open borders. But he was going to go after the ones who are here, the baddest of the bad, the ones that were the drug traffickers, the murderers, the rapists, the horrible people. The ones they let out of jails to come here. He had this way of persuading a lot of people that was exactly what he's going to do, except he didn't. His team came up with 3,000 people a day quotas. So now to hit the quotas that they now are trying to please the president with, they're going after ordinary residents of our communities. Someone running a pizza shop in Long Island for 20 years. I support going after the criminals. Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that we don't tie the hands of law enforcement to help our local law enforcement to help get rid of the bad people who are committing serious crimes. But I don't think local law enforcement should be turned into ICE agents when they're trying to build trust in communities. Trust in communities is the most important part of policing, as they want to keep focusing on dealing with emergencies and accidents and snowstorms and if there is a robbery or car theft. That's what our local police should focus on, not becoming deputized as ICE agents as the Republican Party wants to do and as Bruce Blakeman is doing on Long Island, literally dragging a high school student out of school who's an honor student to throw him in a detention center. That's what the police officers are doing in that county. That has to stop.
And this is one of the biggest talking points in our battleground House races. There's a lot of folks who believe the path to power will once again wind its way through New York. You have an increasing national voice now. So tell us, what role do you anticipate New York is playing in the overall national strategy for the Democrats? And which GOP-held districts are you personally targeting as you think you're the biggest pickup opportunities?
Well, it's an exciting time for Democrats in New York to reverse the trend where we have all powers of government being controlled by Republicans. I think even there are Republicans in the state of New York who said, this is not what we thought we were getting. We did not sign up for this. Just bring it back to a normal place. We're not having a federal government that it's at war with its citizens and its residents and literally killing people in the streets of a place like Minneapolis. That has shocked the conscience of everybody, regardless of your political party. So there is going to be a reverberation against that, and that's going to be felt at the next polls. But in terms of my role for the national, my job for New York State, but also the country, is to work hard to elect enough Democrats to put Hakeem Jeffries in the Speaker's chair and have him have the gavel this time next year. 1 year from now, we can change the course of history. We can't necessarily take back the White House for a couple of years. Hopefully we can take the Senate, but if I focus on picking up seats, as I did in 2024, I worked hard. We had 7 battleground seats in New York that could tip the difference, tipped it either way. And I won 5 out of 7 by helping our local members of Congress, raising money through the state party. I want to keep the seats we won, make sure we don't lose any of the pickups, but also, Mike Lawler's district. I think even Elise Stefanik's
NY-17.
Even Elise Stefanik's district.
I know we're here today to talk Vote 2026, but I want to read you a list of Democrats whose names are out there as possible 2028 contenders. Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, Pete Buttigieg, Gretchen Whitmore, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, your fellow New Yorker, Andy Beshear, J.B. Pritzker. You know all of these folks in a way most of us don't. So if it were up to you, who is best prepared to lead the Democratic ticket?
I will say this, they are all my friends. It's like being a parent to pick your favorite child. I'm not going to go there, but especially the Democratic governors who I know better, and I just had more interaction with them, and I know what it takes to be a governor, especially in a purplish state like New York. We're not a true blue state anymore. We're definitely purplish. Being an executive is a harder job, in my opinion, having been in the Congress myself. It requires you every day to have a lot of incoming and a lot of competing interests that you have to make tough decisions. So I put my faith, and I love, if it's a congressperson from New York, I'm going to be very excited about that as well, because I love candidates from New York, but also the Democratic governors. What a deep bench we have.
Homelessness is rising dramatically across New York. In fact, I was just looking at the data. We're seeing some of the highest numbers we've seen in decades in Long Island, out on the island, and certainly intense scrutiny following the deaths that we just saw in New York City following the cold snap and the blizzard. So from where you're sitting, what's working, what's not? How do we stop people from dying outside in the cold?
I'm very concerned about people who are still outdoors. New York City has the code blue. People can be forcibly put indoors to save their lives. I support that because every life matters and not everybody's able to make a decision about their own well-being. I passed a tough law last year that says that there can be involuntary confinement to get people treatment, because leaving someone on the street is not compassion. But the core of the problem is the failure of this state to have the ambition to build enough housing for decades. And now we're starting to feel the effect. If we had enough supply, we could have more affordable homes at that end of the spectrum. And that's what I've been laser focused on for 4 straight years and heading to this next term. I'm not taking my foot off the gas despite opposition in places like Long Island and others that are, people live there and they're closing the doors to others. We have to find a path forward where we can open up people's hearts and their communities to more people, and they should realize how enriched their communities are.
Still to come, the conclusion of our conversation with Governor Hochul. Welcome back. I'm Tara Rosenblum, and before we leave Syracuse, we have one final question for Governor Hochul, all about congestion pricing. And last question for you, congestion pricing. We just did a big special report on congestion pricing hitting its 1-year mark, and I know you've touted it as a success. Safer streets, less congestion, cleaner air, increased revenue stream. But there's a whole lot of drivers, as you know, in the suburbs and out in New Jersey who feel punished by the congestion pricing tax. What is your message to them, and is this a done deal? Is this staying in place?
It's going to stay in place because we've already made long-term commitments for critical infrastructure and projects to make sure that the investments that were not made for decades in an aging system that is the lifeline of our region, whether it's Metro North, Long Island Railroad, or the subway system itself, I have to have the resources to do that. So this is money that we've already committed to making sure that they're more handicap accessible, and then we have barriers on the platforms to protect people from being pushed on the subway tracks. Cameras on every train, lights everywhere. I want LED lighting. I want to make the experience better and safer for people. So I need the revenues. But the data that shows trips coming in from New Jersey, which you mentioned, people are saving, dramatic amount of time on their commutes. And I'm hearing more from them saying, I gripe about the cost, but I am home a half hour faster than I was before. Or I can leave a half hour later in the morning. And that is time back in people's lives. And the fact that New Jersey, 80% of the people work in the central business district now already come in on public transportation because we have those pipelines. I'm redoing the whole Port Authority bus terminal to make that experience better for people coming in on buses. So I'm trying to look at it holistically, how we can get people from the Hudson Valley in on the east side of the river in easier than they have right now for their commutes. I love trying to solve problems, and this is one that I'm going to continue focusing on for the next few years as well. I appreciate the opportunity to get to know them better and have them see me out in the communities, and know that I'm just going to keep fighting for them because that's all I know how to do.
Thank you, Governor. So now as the Democrats look ahead to November, all the attention shifts back home to Long Island, where the Republicans are holding their state convention with Bruce Blakeman at the center of the fight. News 12 will be there bringing you all the action from the convention floor. For now, I'm Tara Rosenblum in Syracuse. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Power and Politics.